What is the most ridiculous rule in your place of work? Story 1. At my old job, HR held a meeting to tell us that there was too much swearing on the sales floor. Someone raised their hand and pointed out that swearing is very common in our industry, and that is the way that our customers speak. HR later sent out a memo explaining that swearing should be limited to conversations with clients. It was amazing. Story 2. I used to work at a place in which my boss implemented a no more than 2 glasses a day of water policy. What a cow. I ignored this rule and complained directly to our CEO, and the matter ended later that day. What was weird though was the majority of people actually followed the rule, and some even shopped me up to HR about breaking the rules. I left not long after that because not only was my boss a complete jerk, but if my colleagues were going to HR over me drinking water, then I obviously couldn't trust them. To be honest, I can't believe the absurdity of it all. A 2 glasses of water a day policy? Who even comes up with these ridiculous rules? Your boss clearly had no understanding of basic human needs. I'm glad you stood up for yourself and went straight to the CEO to get the policy overturned. In the end, you knew you had to get out of there. You can't work with a boss like that, and you certainly can't trust your colleagues. It's a shame, but sometimes you just gotta cut your losses and move on. Story 3. Had a workplace time our bathroom breaks and deduct them from our allotted 15-minute breaks or lunch. We had to go see the office manager to get a key to open the restroom. As soon as we left his office, he would start a timer. When you got back, he would stop the timer and tell you how much time you needed to deduct from your lunch or next break. They watched our breaks like a hawk. Also, if you made a mistake, they would stand over you and time you while you fixed it and deduct that from your lunch or breaks. You couldn't bring anything that smells for lunch, and they had no way of heating anything up. I worked out my contract and split. Someone replied to this comment by saying, I would troll the hell out of that manager. Just pee in the sink, then go ask for the bathroom key and be gone for 21 seconds and then give the key back. Do this often. Confuse the hell out of him while simultaneously interrupting his day 30 times. Definitely worth it. Story 4. My dad told me this one a while back. He used to work for a PR firm. The way he described the office environment, think The Office, but in the 1980s. The company hired a corporate efficiency specialist to come in and improve things. She came in and implemented all kinds of rules which seemed to follow some sort of cost system. Her philosophy was the higher your office rank, the more perks you get. Her idea of perks were number of pictures you are allowed in your cubicle, whether you are allowed to have a potted plant or not. Coffee mugs were only allowed to senior employees. Others had to use paper cups. Being allowed to leave the office for lunch was also considered a perk. Needless to say, a coup soon followed, and she was tossed out on her hiney. The whole corporate efficiency specialist thing was just ridiculous in my opinion. It's like she was trying to recreate some sort of medieval feudal system in the office. The higher your rank, the more perks you get? Give me a break. It's like she had no understanding of what makes a good work environment. The rules she implemented were just ridiculous and petty, like only allowing certain people to have pictures in their cubicles or have plants. It's like she was trying to control every aspect of people's lives. And the coffee mug thing? That's just ridiculous. It's like she was trying to create division among the employees. I mean, it's no surprise that a coup happened and she was shown the door. It's just a shame that it had to come to that. Story 5. Dress code policy is just dumb at my work. Different positions have different requirements, even though we all work in the same office. My favorite rule, though, is the one on shorts. We can wear shorts on Fridays between Memorial Day and Labor Day. However, the shorts can't have pockets on the side. It was written to discourage ratty cargo shorts, but the way in which it was written allows me to wear gym shorts. So I do. Hey, gym shorts are comfy, and if nobody's updated the rules so far, I say keep doing it. Story 6. Old job of mine in a warehouse. Our stations were pretty far apart, so when we'd listen to music, we'd all usually have our own stuff playing. Not a problem since you could barely hear the neighbor's music. Well, the CEO didn't like hearing multiple songs when walking through the warehouse. He made a rule that we all either had to listen to the same music or none at all. Someone added to this comment by saying, you should have put on the same song, but get everyone to start at 15 seconds apart. Story 7. I once needed a pen, figured this was a reasonable ask, went to the supply closet on my floor, which was locked, asked the floor admin, and she told me to go to the main supply room in the basement. Went to the basement and explained my situation of needing a pen. They told me all the requests for supplies must be approved by my department head. The problem is, being new, I'd never met my department head. She also worked in San Francisco, and I worked in Milwaukee, so I needed to send an email both introducing myself and asking her if I had permission to get a pen from the supply supply closet. What a ridiculous situation. I mean, it's just a pen, right? And yet it seems like you had to jump through hoops just to get one. Lock supply closet on your floor? Really? And then you go all the way to the basement to ask for one, and then to top it all off, you had to get permission from your department head, who you'd never even met, and who worked in a different state? It's like the company was just trying to make it as difficult as possible for employees to do their jobs. It's just a pen, for goodness sake. Story 8. If you are 1 minute late, it is a strike. However, if you take a half day, nothing goes on your record. I was just told to take a half day if you're going to be late because they straight up fire you for strikes. Also, if you clock out early, it is a strike. If you have to go to the doctor on lunch break and it is going to take an hour and 10 minutes, take the rest of the day off. Weird. Someone replied to this comment by saying, retail here, ours is a point system. Under 15 minutes late is half a point. Over 15 minutes is a full point. Call out is 1 point. I have about 5.5. 4 is a warning, and you have to sign a thing. I shouldn't have signed it. All it did was cover my manager's ass. Same manager that yells at customers and never helps anyone or actually does anything. She also keeps scheduling people who don't work here anymore. 8 points and you're fired. Most of my points were half points from being exactly 1 minute late because it is impossible to clock in until someone lets you in. I'm always early, but sometimes 15 minutes early, and you're still left waiting, hitting the buzzer. That makes absolutely no sense. If you're on the property and you're trying to get in the building and nobody lets you in until after your shift has already started, you should not be considered late. Story 9. Former job, there was trouble when I officially moved desks and my new desk had a phone with a call display. Apparently call display phones were allowed for people at a certain pay level. Your pay level also governed the height of your cubicle walls. My manager's solution was to promote me. Another former job, we were mandated to work on an engineering-related research project outside of work hours, because a responsible engineer always gives back to the engineering community. I could live with that. However, your project had to be related to the company's business. Story 10. We have to do all of our paperwork at least 3 times. There is a copy of it in our personal folders, a copy online, and a copy in our store folders. Not only does it waste time and paper, but forgetting to do one has gotten people fired. They did the other 2 identical pieces of paperwork confirming that yes, they did take out the trash, and yes, they did check the store voicemail, but how dare they forget to do the 3rd piece of identical paperwork. Our weekly visits from corporate revolve around whether or not we've all done this paperwork. It's so redundant. Having to do everything 3 times? Come on, it's such a waste of time and resources. Not only that, but it's just so easy to forget one of the 3 copies, and then people get fired over it. It's like the company is just trying to find ways to nitpick and hold people accountable for things that don't even matter. And the weekly visits from corporate, all just to check in if you've done the paperwork, it's like they have nothing better to do. It's just so redundant and pointless. It's a shame that companies can't come up with more productive and efficient ways to manage their employees, instead of this kind of bureaucracy. Story 11. All the extra toilet paper in the building has to stay in a single closet where it can be overseen by the toilet paper queen. I heard her shrieking the other day when she discovered someone had hoarded 1 spare roll of toilet paper upstairs so the people who work upstairs wouldn't have to walk down multiple flights of stairs when the toilet paper ran out. Someone replied to this comment by saying, we had a spoon and milk queen who governed all the spoons and milk for my office. She would go around desks and hound people for spoons. People brought in their own spoons so they wouldn't have to deal with her. But she didn't understand that people could bring in stuff from home and was adamant that they must belong to the company and got angry if you opposed her spoon reclamation mission. She also redesigned our kitchen. In her grand redesign, she left out a cutlery drawer, but we have a triple height pots pans drawer, so that's something. Although there is no cooker or pots and pans, so it's completely empty. Thankfully, she was let go. That doesn't sound like a queen to me. That sounds like some kind of strange spoon collecting troll.
Nasty coaxes hides the spoons from us.
Story 12. I used to work for the now long-defunct books, movies, and music store, Media Play. Just one of the 285 reasons that poorly run business ran into the ground was the tardy/attendance policy. If you were literally 0.01 seconds late clocking in, even hours before the store opened, it was a really, really big deal. You'd not only be formally written up, but lectured like a child, sometimes berated even. If you were tardy 3 times, bye-bye. However, if you no-showed and then called 2 hours later saying that you were sick, okay, Okay, thank you, feel better. This trained everyone to just take a sick day instead of being half a second late to work. I can't tell you how many times you'd see a coworker screeching into the parking lot before work after fighting traffic from a wreck or whatever, noticing it was 8:01, and then slowly driving off to go home and feign being sick. This was particularly upsetting when it was a pull-down stock week and we needed every hand on deck but had unusually early shifts. Someone responded to this comment by saying, "My job years ago tried to implement a very strict attendance policy like that, where if you were 1 second late you would get written up. Till one Saturday, a guy who had worked there for like 30 years showed up to work 30 seconds late. They pull him into the office and write him up. He then gets up and tells them he's going home. Working Saturdays was voluntary and he basically said, 'I don't have to be here today, so I'm going home.' He was doing them a favor by working that day, but when they wrote him up for being 30 seconds late, he basically screwed them over by just going home. That policy didn't last too much longer. For the most part, if you're a few minutes late, it's no big deal at all. If you're late all the time, they'll have a word with you or write you up, but they understand sometimes things happen that are out of your control to cause you to be late." Story 13. When I was in the military, I saw a buddy of mine sitting outside crying. I went and consoled him best as I could. Apparently, he was just depressed and unhappy. After he was feeling a bit better, I went to go and find someone to tell them what was happening. They knew. In fact, he had been crying so much lately that they had instituted a no crying at your desk policy, which is why he was outside. Okay, we're all human and emotions are part of that. Your buddy was clearly going through a tough time, and instead of offering support, the military just instituted a policy to punish him for it. It's just so insensitive and shows a lack of empathy from the organization. It's a shame that instead of addressing the root of the problem, they chose to just sweep it under the rug with this ridiculous rule. Story 14. I worked as a call receiver. We never saw a customer. You were only on the phone with them. Rule: your hair must only be a natural color. I dyed my hair the same exact color that someone from a different shift had. I was reprimanded. I told them that if the rule is not enforced for everyone, they couldn't single me out. Their reasoning for letting the other person have that color but not me: mine was my real hair, dyed an unnatural color. Hers was a weave that could be changed very easily. Really? Then why hasn't she been asked to change her hair? Because that stuff is expensive. They gave up trying to convince me that they were in the right. Story 15. I work in retail and we have an on-call shift. Your name will be listed on the schedule for a certain time as a call-in, so you have to call 1 hour before your shift to figure out if they need you to work for that day. For example, you would be listed as on-call for 2 p.m. and wouldn't know until 1 p.m. if you were working that evening. If you don't call in, it's considered not showing up for a shift, but there's no extra pay for the shift whether they need you or not. So for 3 days of the week, I don't know if I have to work or not. Can't make any solid plans to do anything except call my work and ask if they need me. I can't imagine having children or elderly that need taking care of because it would be such a hassle to arrange care for them just an hour before having to work. It's such an inconvenience for employees to have to call in an hour before their shift just to find out if they're working. I'm pretty sure that there has to be some sort of law against that. It makes it impossible to make any solid plans, whether it's personal or professional. It's just so unpredictable. And what's even worse is that there's no extra pay. It's just not fair to the employees. I can't imagine how it would be even more challenging for people with children or elderly who need taking care of. What do you do if you have to work and can't find anyone to take care of your child or your parents when they're old? You just take them to work with you? Story 16. There was an issue where there was too much socializing going on the factory floor, particularly when people were working while sitting down. False, skewed supervisor perception, so they made everyone stand. When that presented ergonomics problems, they brought in these weird chairs that made you sit at a slant, had no backs, and had no wheels, so they wouldn't cause distractions. No part of it made any sense. You're all socializing too much, so you can't sit and you can't stand. Here, take these new weird chairs so that you can sit-stand. That'll show you. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a story you'd like to share, please leave it in the comments below. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is available. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.